Hello and welcome to Social Ketchup Binge. Today we have with us distinguished filmmaker Mr. Dibakar Banerjee. Mr. Banerjee, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks.
Post LSD2, how are you?
It's been intense, quite intense, because we kind of knew the way we were running up to the theatrical that it would have a certain fate, and then certain things happened on the internet. The way the reviews were, which were some of them were getting a lot of what we were trying to say through the film, and then even more interesting was the kind of comments that one read on Letterboxd and the kind of comments my colleagues and much younger actors in the film and all, they kept sending us. And then, in these kind of things, the industry or the crew starts looking for IMDb and all that. Mm-hmm. Then somebody sent me that it was chosen as
top 10 films
top 10s of 24 IMDb pick and all that. So we were under no illusions how the film would be seen by those who would not be expecting the film, because they're not in the habit of such films. So it kind of flies into everything, every morsel of expectation, or a certain kind of a rehearsal that you have with film watching these days.
Yeah.
It was kind of, taking an anti-tank missile and blowing those expectations and those, conventions away. So we knew what we would go in for, but I have a feeling it'll be watched in a way that we wanted it to be watched. One of our crew members, I think a friend's friend sent a message saying, Pirate Bay पे बहुत download हो रहा है. So वो भी है. And so it's been extremely intense. It's been extremely good. It's been extremely bad. It's been extremely crazy. It's been extremely happy in some weird kind of a way. And after that, one doesn't have the luxury of figuring out what you've done. I will only understand what I've done in LSD2 probably in a year from now and say, fine, it's okay. But you'll have to ask the writers and the other people engaged with it, because I'm too much in it, you know. So that's what the experience has been so far.
Okay. So, as I was saying, the question that I have wanted to ask you is that you seem to have disappeared from Bollywood, and not even disappeared. Disappeared is not the right word. It's like your films come and go very quietly. Sandeep and Pinky came very quietly, ran on word of mouth. People really liked it, but not a lot of noise, because Bollywood is a very loud place. And LSD2 also similarly very quietly. Why is that?
I have no idea about that. I have some theories about that. I'm not the person who controls the marketing of my film.
Yeah.
I'm not the person who tags a value to the film. I'm not a person who judges the film before it's released. I can only make it. So I think it's a question that, you'll have to ask from those people who are, making it and releasing it and marketing it. And in one way, it's kind of going in a direction that I've always, in the back of my mind, kind of hoped for, is that somehow my films should be a little better known than I am.
Okay.
Because that way the film gets to speak. And the film was made for it to speak to a certain people. Of course, I would like to have more gung-ho fame and that whole Bollywood, infrastructure around me. This release, that release, this premiere, that premiere. But the thing is that it's not just today. That's the way it's been for me all my life. It's not recently. It has seen a different turn, but Khosla Ka Ghosla was very smartly released, but it was not known, and it wasn't an overnight sensation. It took all those watches and all to sort of finally get to that level. It was appreciated critically, but I'm talking about number of people watching it. Oi Lucky Lucky Oi released during the time of the Taj attack. So again, its viewership happened much later than when the film was released. LSD2 LSD1 was released with those were the theatrical days. So it had that heft of theatrical,
But LSD1's promotion was really good.
That's
I
right.
remember watching the songs on TV and also being afraid, is my mom watching that I'm watching this song? So the promotions were like, there was more noise with LSD1 than there was with LSD2.
Those were days in which a film kind of found its way to the audience from a different path. And the stakes were of the studio, and it was against a theatrical sort of return, which was much more hopeful than it is today. The theatrical audience has dwindled and dwindled and dwindled and become the platform audience. Also, theatrical experience is so expensive these days. Single screens are gone. So a lot of us wait. We can't afford to go. A lot of us wait. So all those things have changed film watching a lot, and we ourselves are responsible for that. So that's the way the world changes.
Why do you say we are responsible for that?
Well, the fact is that if you sort of, kill single screens, if you make extremely expensive, those multiplexes in the malls, and you are setting yourself up for somebody to walk into a vacuum. Because you've made the multiplexes, but the multiplexes are now very expensive to maintain. So it has to run to a very different business standard. So then again, all kinds of relationships between the multiplexes and the big studios and the distributors and all decide how much time in the multiplexes a film will be given. Basis its star power, basis its perceived value. Basis whatever. And that also determines in some way how much marketing is going to get, because if a producer sees that theatrical project, film will not get surely those number of screens in terms of affordability, or it'll be drowned out by a big studio release, at that point, with big stars. So when you're doing something absolutely new with no known faces, which is what LSD is, then you have to, something will have to give. So you know that you're going to be edged out. So these are the kind of problems that I've always faced. What has happened is that after the killing of the single screens and the multiplex and the 100 crore budgets and extremely, inflated star fees, which kind of, weigh down a film in such a way that for it to make money, it really has to go for an all or nothing approach. It's not really a place where a variety can exist. It's a place where you have to throw in a lot of capital and hog everything else and not let anything else survive, because the moment you give that leeway, you will sort of, disappear. This connected to the fact that if you have certain films which are like low budget, but do very decent business. For example, you have a very small film like Do Aur Do Pyar, okay, and it somehow finds its audience. It does well for its budget, okay. So a film like LSD1 or LSD2, even from LSD1, I have the experience that it took a bit for the audience to sort of get into it, and of course the name was very titillating, and there was a very titillating marketing campaign designed around that. Okay, so this time we didn't have those resources. We just could about make the film and release, And but Balaji decided that rather release the film than not release. So they released it, and then whatever happened.
Then whatever happened is that I really loved the film. The film is great.
Thank you for saying that. And I'm sure the only thing that I'm hoping is that it's seen as a film which takes the LSD franchise and one step forward.
Yeah.
That I think we've succeeded.
Yeah.
I think LSD 2 is a step ahead of LSD. I can see that after a month or so.
It has succeeded. It is a very good successor. But also what I want to talk about is that it gives you a very it has a very high shock value, and it gives you a very strong reality check. Like it's grabbing you by your collars and shouting at you, say, this is your reality, face it. What do you think? How much do you think that shock value, that reality check affects the success of your film?
Sometimes it really works. It depends on the nature of the shock.
Okay.
So I'll tell you, LSD had released, and I was, in my society, and I was getting into a lift, and a neighbor met me. I live 5 minutes away from here, in a middle to upper middle class tower block, which is like 25 floors, and there are other much more swanky, apartment buildings here with 40 floors, 50 floors. They exist cheek by jowl with these charls where you're sitting now. So it's a very interesting neighborhood. So I was in my upper to middle upper class neighborhood, and somebody was in the lift and said, "Yaar, मैंने आपकी LSD देखी है, LSD 2 देखी, लेकिन हमें भी पता है छक्का है." I said, "छक्का? Yeah, छक्का. I know they are there." As like that lady, then he took the name of a prominent transgender activist. And he said, I know, वो तो हाँ छक्का तो है, वो तो सब बोलते हैं, very good. लेकिन उनके बारे में क्या बोलोगे आप? By that time, so this I took as the median response to a film like that, which is a film about transphobia.
Yeah.
Made through a process which has transphobia. Exhibited to a largely transphobic audience.
I agree.
And showing transphobia.
Yeah.
And so I took that as a very, very valuable piece of experience, that chakka dialogue in the lift. If that neighbor of mine, who will never watch this, if he watches this, then he'll know I'm talking about him.
Yeah.
But in a way, he'll never speak about it. And I'll never speak about it. And I'll never tell his name. And we will carry these little bits of, solidified silences with us for years and years and weeks and weeks. Then if somebody, as you said, says, "Ke, this is reality," you said something which was very interesting. You said two things in the same thing. You said, it's shocking and it shows reality. Why should reality be shocking? We are living in it. We are used to it. So if it is a reality and if it shocks us, that means that when we look at reality outside of a film, there is some other kind of watching that we are doing. And there is some other kind of performing that we are doing. Which is why in LSD 2, you see performers.
Yeah.
You see a reality show where people are performing in, out, on and off camera. You see in the second film, a corporate company and its employees performing with each other.
Yeah.
In the last film, you see this influencer whose performance of himself in social media, how it interacts with whatever he's calling himself.
Yeah.
So,
and not just the depiction of trans people or of power or of technology or of gender. I found the sex scenes also very realistic in the terms that
there was only one sex scene What
No,
do you mean
I
by
also-
sex scenes?
No, there are also intimate scenes, the
Right,
romantic
right,
scenes.
right.
Anything that involves sexuality.
There were 2-3
Huh.
scenes of intimacy. I forgot it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Even in the last film, there's no intimacy as such, but he goes naked and he
There's
goes to
graphic
that
sex.
classroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in those scenes, what I realize is that those scenes look very realistic. They look very shocking. Again, they also look voyeuristic, but actually, it's not the scene that is voyeuristic. It is the scene calling out our voyeurism, the audience's voyeurism. Why is that, and how do you bring that about?
I have no idea how do I bring that about, but there's something that I wanted to say which might give you the answer. My first attempt is for a sex scene to not look like pornographic. And by pornographic, I'm not getting into extremely vague terms like obscenity and all that. By pornography, I mean a sexual act that has no intimacy.
Yeah.
A sexual act which is a performance. And because it's a performance, it's catering to certain obsessions, which is connected to which obsessions have the maximum purchasing power, which is related to males, which is related to males, those who consume pornography as a way of, sexual relief, valid on the surface of it. But beyond that, what it does is it creates solidifying of certain fantasies.
Of dominance too.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
The main thing is, of course, the misogyny of it, we can discuss.
Yeah.
That's another discussion. But I'm saying that primarily, even before misogyny enters the picture, it's a fantasy.
Yeah.
They're solidifying that fantasy, and therefore you're getting more and more removed from reality. That's one aspect of it. My first attempt is not to make it pornographic. My first film, LSD, we tried our best, and I think we succeeded because another gentleman who told me that आपकी film में ना love है ना sex है, धोखा ही धोखा है. So that scene succeeded. There's two people making love, and you not even do you feel any vicarious desire. You're actually extremely repelled.
Yeah.
Because you know why it's happening. You've lived with the characters. You know the betrayal that's happening and whatever. Similarly, here, there are 2-3 different kind of intimate scenes. And in one scene, there are two people who are intimate like any other couple in the whole world. And it's a transgender relationship. There's another sex scene which is happening between two heterosexual people and two cis people, which is not connecting or making them intimate, which is really about something a little more exploitative or a little more connected to positions of power that fuel certain relationships where both the parties are addicted to a kind of a power dynamic abuse. You know of so many of us who have those relationships. So it's like that kind of a very normal everyday relationship.
And also the fact that both of them are divided by technology, but also connected by technology in the same scene.
Yes. That was the other part of LSD, that how we are like using our distance for a strange kind of intimacy, which did not exist before. You know? And which is actually changing the very definition of intimacy. We are not intimate the way we used to be because there's certain things happening because of the virtual world and the social media, which is changing our patterns of intimacy. Good, bad में नहीं जा रहा हूँ मैं. वो अलग बात. कुछ good नहीं है, कुछ bad नहीं है. जो है सो है. So I'm saying that it's changing. So that's something that I think we wanted to capture.
And what about the representation of the film? The representation in the film. By representation, I mean, it's not just, okay, it's a movie about a trans woman, so we are going to cast a trans woman in the lead role. It's not just that, but across caste, across class, across age. The film represents so many people. Like there's a transgender woman in relationship with a Muslim man. There is this young guy who doesn't know about himself but goes on to influence so many people.
Yeah.
Paritosh's character.
By the way,
in
that's a
first
very
one.
interesting way of talking about the third story. I hadn't thought of it like that. Yeah. Okay.
No, that's exactly how I see him. He doesn't know about himself at all, yet he is so confidently influencing others, not knowing what he's doing and not aware of his consequences. So anyway, there's like a lot of varied representation in the film, which you do not usually see in movies. So was that a conscious choice?
I mean, you can call it conscious or you can call it the only choice that we had. I mean, that's how Prateek thinks. That's how Shubham thinks. That's how hopefully I think. I'm probably the oldest and can have the most uncleish point of view to this whole issue. And there are certain aspects of it in which I was exposed to be uncleish. Okay. And then we sort of, kind of changed it because Prateek and Shubham, they're both extremely alert people and informed people about the way really things are happening. So they're not journalists or anything. They're just alert and aware of what's happening because they're interested in what's happening. What's really happening.
I watched that movie, Eve Aliu, and it's very aware of its surroundings. So yeah, I get your point.
Absolutely. It's invested in that.
Yeah.
So they are very invested in that, about what's happening. And I think they wouldn't have wanted to associate with anything that had any problematics of representation. In fact, we had one major problem during the making of the film where because of the, certain aspects of production and the way a film is seen and marketing and all that, we had decided to sort of, we couldn't find anybody better than Bonita. Bonita and another actress, they workshopped together for about a month. And then came a heartbreaking moment when we had to sort of, say bye to the other person and start with Bonita. And so, I mean, you've seen what she's done.
Yeah.
And for Noor's role, we ultimately had to cast Paritosh, a cis male, as a trans woman, because first of all, it was a very specific role, specific age group, specific lots of other things. And I had just kind of come down to the choice of one transgender actress and one cis male actor. And then I think the image of the film as a trans film was found to be a little restrictive.
Yeah.
And it was decided, I mean, I was kind of reluctant to do it, but I agreed to, take the film forward, to sort of, take another actor and cast him as this transgender actress who has had transformational surgery. And I was using an actor for the non-trans surgeried transgender role of Kulu, who from the world's point of view is a man pretending to be a woman, who from her point of view is a woman imprisoned in a man's body. And we used her for that role, and we used a man for somebody who sort of ostensibly gone through surgery. So quite frankly, it was a challenge that I felt a little greedy about and kind of walked into it, interestingly. So that's how it came about.
And it's interesting that you bring this up because this is the exact question that I asked Paritosh and Bonita, both of them. A heterosexual man is playing a trans woman, and there is a criticism about this on social media of this practice in general, that heterosexual actors get the roles of trans people when they don't usually get roles easily in movies. And both of them were of the same opinion that you have to do what you have to do. As of now, he did a good job, and he was like, इतने सालों से हूँ मुंबई में, I didn't get a job, and finally I did get this one. This is a very big role, so I did what I did, and maybe in the future I won't. And Bonita interestingly said, I don't think gender should be the reason why you cast someone or why you don't cast someone.
Yeah.
I should also be allowed to play heterosexual characters. I don't have to play trans just because I'm trans. I should be able to play, a guy's sister or a friend or whatever. So all of you have very interesting takes on this subject.
Yes, because we continuously kept debating it. Except that Paritosh and I didn't speak too much about it. Because Paritosh knew that I would prefer a transgender woman actress to do that to begin with. And Paritosh, every second of the moment was aware that in some ways he had to sort of give better than his best to kind of keep me slightly energized. So that was one interesting dynamic. With Bonita, it was like easy. Bonita, I just used to have to discuss the character because the kind of experiences that she's gone through, it's just quite crazy. But I think the reason why you're saying this is because fundamentally the representational aspect of the films are firmly wedded to the representation of the character that he or she is wrongly or rightly projecting. Truthfully or untruthfully projecting. And the representation of the citizen turned audience. Citizen turned into audience who are watching, consuming the performance, and while watching it, performing themselves.
Yes.
So those are the representations in the film. And because it's consistent, I think you're saying that chalo yaar, ek mein mard ko le liya, ek mein aurat ko le liya. But there are other things which show that problematic nahi hai.
No, it's not problematic.
That's the main thing. We are doing something and then our own fears, very personal fears, are reflecting in the film. So...
And when you said that Paritosh didn't talk to you about this, I have heard allegations that Abhinav was your favorite on the set. कि अभिनव तो क्या है, वो तो कुछ भी बोल सकता है, वो बच्चा है. We were all very quiet.
I think so. I think Abhinav was too young. Yes. You see, not only am I old, I'm a parent. Okay. And some of these young actors, their parents are my age. They are young. Some of their parents are younger to me. So it's a bizarre relation to have. So because, so definitely, if you get a kid in front of me, I will definitely be a little more deferential to the kid. You get into that habit if you're a parent, or you understand how vulnerable it is being 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And also if you're a parent, then you start, unless the kid is an absolute asshole, you love all kids.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
So the allegations were true.
They were absolutely true. I'm guilty. However, there's one way we got back in some strange ways against the transphobia that we were swimming against throughout, which is we cast quite a few transgender women as cis women in the film, and nobody can tell. They're there in the film.
I do know which one it is.
I know. I mean, many people who would sort of, see, look, find out. They're all actors,
I myself didn't
actresses.
know. Bonita told me.
Oh yeah, that's because you had a mole, so somebody told you. But if she hadn't told you,
you couldn't tell.
So that's something that gave us a lot of pleasure. A lot of pleasure, and the fact that nobody can tell.
You can't. So lastly, after this heavy discussion, I just want to ask you, what are your future plans? When is LSD 3?
LSD 3, I can't tell you anything about, because when we made LSD, we didn't have any idea about LSD 2. So LSD 3 is very, very far away, if at all, if it were to be existing. I mean, future plans, nothing. Future plan is like, you eat, you go to sleep, in the morning you brush, and you start your hustle.
I mean, your cinematic future plan.
My cinematic future is to get up, brush, take a bath, and start hustling. That's it.
No other scripts or movies?
Oh, 100%. That's how you hustle.
So that was my question.
But it's always been the same. It's never changed. It's like I might as well say that my future plan is to breathe. My future plan is to take another script and start hustling and make another film and somehow survive. Is the only thing that I can do, and that's all I'm doing while breathing.
Lastly, do you have anything that you would like to say to your audience, LSD 2 or otherwise?
It's all there in the films. My only problem is that for whatever audience that exists for my films outside, my last film, Deets, which was made for Netflix, it was Netflix original, and it's got my favorite actors like Nasiruddin Shah and Manisha Koirala, and Divya Datta and Huma Qureshi and Neeraj Kavi, and it's a fantastic ensemble piece. Shashank Arora. So these are all actors that I dearly like watching. For them to, all of them to be in the film, with other, comparatively newer sort of, actors, like Zoya, so that's a film that I really want people to watch, but I don't really know how to make people watch it, because it's not.
But how will people watch it if it's not out there?
That's it. That's where we have to leave it. We'll have to, I think the question is the answer. We'll have to leave it at that question. So that's all. And I wish they had seen it. So then and that was made before LSD 2. So that and LSD 2 sort of kind of together combined. That's also got 3 stories. Of course, they're in different time zones. They're not happening simultaneously. They're like 3 completely, there's a 50, 60 year gap between the 3 stories. So that's another film which is kind of flowing with a similar energies like LSD 2. And it's a particular point of my life, So I wish people could see it and then, have some thoughts with it. So, but we'll see what happens. Outside of that, I mean, I have a feeling that we'll be seen lesser and lesser. As you were asking right at the beginning, that why there are such quieter releases. There could be 2, 3, concomitant reasons. One is that maybe our time has come. It's over. Another way is to see is that, it'll get harder and harder and harder. And the tougher you are to kill, the more cockroachy you are, the more your chances are of sort of, again, start being seen again. The last one is that you're not good enough. I don't think that's it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. What else? Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. This was an interesting discussion, and all the best. And I do think there are other movies lined up that you're not telling us about, so we will wait for them.
Thank you so much. One more thing I want to add is that, people your age, if you were saying these things, outside of this interview, you told us what you felt about the film, you spoke to the actors and all that. I mean, if you're saying these things and, somebody your age, then there's hope for us.
What is my age?
You would be in your mid to late 20s, mid to late 20s. But the thing is that from my point of view, I'm in my mid 50s.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake.
Why do you make a face when you say mid 50s?
Because, less of my life is in front of me than behind me.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not an uncle pleaser. So I'll have to speak to the young.
Yeah.
But if the people you are speaking to as equals
Yeah.
are the age of your kids, then you have to speak to your kids as equals, and you have to
Yeah.
keep thinking of yourself not as something aging, but as something that's growing.
Makes sense.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's where sort of, I get very ambivalent about aging and diminishing, while inside I feel like growing,
Yeah.
So that's why I
Growing
made the
seems
face.
to be the correct term.
Yeah.
Because your movies do connect with the youth very well. And I will
Hopefully.
also say that even though you keep calling yourself uncleish, your
No,
words, not
I'm
mine.
not saying that I could be a bit uncleish because you can't escape conditioning, no?
Yeah.
And of your age. I grew up in a different time.
But your movies talk about the youth so well, as if some 20-year-old has written it, some 26-year-old has written it.
Well, the co-writers are much younger.
So whatever the combination is, it worked, and I loved LSD too. So thank you so much for taking time out and talking to us.
Thank you for watching the film, and thank you for spending so much time on us and our film. Thank you. Thank you for watching me talk about LSD2 on Social Ketchup Binge. And just the way many characters in LSD2 keep saying, do like, share and subscribe.